and welcome to another edition of Wordy Screencast, where today our learning intentions are twofold. One, we are learning to use RACE, the RACE format, when answering open-ended questions, and introducing evidence with transitional phrases. Why? I'm so glad you asked. So that we can let the reader know, yo, evidence is coming next, about to drop this on you, so we don't just hit them over the head with putting the evidence in. So that is why we shall learn this. All right, the end, you should be able to explain the four parts of RACE, R-A-C-E, explain the four parts of TIVE and what that is, introduce evidence with, give you a hint on the TIV, transition, indicator, verb. So let's get into it. Let's do it. All right, so we have, when we answer open-ended questions, we're going to use something called the RACE format. R-A-C-E stands for restate the question, answer the question, cite evidence to support the answer. So I'll start with the question. Restate, if they answer that question, cite evidence to support the answer, and explain how or why the evidence, cited here, proves the answer is right. So the E connects the C and the A. We will cite two pieces of evidence, so really it'll be R-A-C-E-C-E. But more on that later. All right, restate. Restate the title of the author, keywords, phrases from the question prompt. I'll give you an example of this in a minute. Answer. Answer the question by referring to the evidence. In a general way, you're not quoting anything yet. The evidence supports the answer. So what does that really look like? I'm glad you asked. So restate plus answer equals the topic sentence when we respond to this. So we're going to combine restate and answer into one sentence. Remember, topic sentence lets the reader know, here's the central idea of the response. Here's what the paragraph's about. So we wrote summaries, we had to figure out the central idea. Now we're creating the central idea. So what does that look like? So suppose you had this question, this prompt. Describe Stephen's personality in the book Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie by Jordan Sonnenblick. The question really is, what is Stephen's personality? I tell the reader what the personality is. And I'm going to prove that with evidence. The answer, since many of us probably have not read this book, is Stephen's a bit sarcastic. He is an 8th grader, a little bit sarcastic. All right, but not in a bad way, like generally just good sarcastic sense of humor. Not sarcastic like sassy, but sarcastic funny. There is a difference. All right, so what do I do with this? So I have to create a topic sentence. Restate plus answer. So restate. So here's my topic sentence. In the book Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie by Jordan Sonnenblick, Stephen's personality is extremely sarcastic. In the book Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie by Jordan Sonnenblick, Stephen's personality is, there's my restatement of the question. My answer, he's extremely sarcastic. Topic sentence. Done. Done. So restate and answer with the title and author. We got our first sentence. All right. Moving on. Cite. We have to cite evidence. Quoted evidence. Make sure we include the 5 P's. So for example, in fact, Sonnenblick writes, thanks, Annette. Thanks a lot. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Notice I Sonnenblick 24. So there is my cited evidence. Somebody saying, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Pretty sarcastic. Explain, extend. This is where you have to really connect back to the topic, back to the answer, and show, we want some strong verbs with this. How does the evidence prove the answer is right? So in this case, the evidence proves that Stephen can be sarcastic. Stephen was having a bad day and didn't want to necessarily hear what Annette had to say. Sarcasm means responding in a witty, cheeky way. Stephen just did just that when Annette tried to help him out a bit to avoid his conflict. Notice, explanation of evidence. 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences. Explanation of evidence should be most of your RACE response. Now this is just the basic. Again, we will cite a second piece and explain a second piece of evidence. But that is our explanation. All right. Explaining the evidence. Here are some sentence starters you can use. This evidence proves. The evidence shows. This is important or significant because. This is what the evidence means. this teaches. Now, there will be a chart hanging up in the classroom, which I shall show you after this video, that has some of these and others on it. But you may want to take note of a couple of sentence starters, maybe jot down 2 or 3 and make those, all right, these are the ones I'm going to use to start. We can always add more. All right, so at this point, you should be able to explain the 4 parts of race. I'm going to pause this video and see if you can do it. All right, now we're going to move to TIVE, T-I-V-E, TIVE, TIVE, TIVE. We did this when we worked on summaries. We did not have the E. We had transition indicator verb to show the order of events in the summary. First, the text mentions. Later, the author writes about. We're going to do the same thing with evidence this time, just different types of transitions because we're not showing time and order and sequence. This time, we shall be showing that evidence is about to get dropped. We'll drop the evidence on you, reader. All right, so T, transition, introduce examples, evidence. Some examples of transitions to show examples. For example, in fact, the text states, for instance, you can use these. I would. So there are more. And once you're comfortable with a couple of these, add a new one to your repertoire. All right. I is the indicator. Who or what gave us the events, gave us the evidence? Is it the text, the author? In this case, author Brittany Allen, who we're working with Sheboygan Day, or her last name. In fact, Allen writes. The character, is it Owen? Is he saying something? Is it Dell? You need to let the reader know. Verb, present tense. Use a verb and what it's saying. So if the author says something, the character says something, character says, character states. If the author's discussing, they discussed. Mentions, indicates. Good strong verb. All right, and then we add the E, the evidence. So here's an example of transition indicator verb. The quote would stand for evidence. For example, Owen says, in fact, Allen writes. For instance, the text states. So if I look at this, Claude Sheboygan and his mom scuba dive with humpback whales. He can understand whale songs. The rumors were nonstop about the Adele and Claude. All right, so can't just drop this in. This has the 5 Ps, but I need to lead the reader to it, not just him over the head with the evidence. So one way to do that. In fact, the other kids state about Claude. Quote, Claude and his mom scuba dive with humpback whales. He can understand whale songs. Paragraph 50 from the story by Allen. In fact, is my transition. That lets me know, reader, evidence is next. Who says it? The kids are my indicator. What do? They state, therefore, there is my verb. So, in fact, the kids state, transition indicator verb. Good to go. All right, so at this point, you should be able to explain the 4 parts of race. And now explain the 4 parts of TIVE, which includes transition indicator verb. And we're going to practice with this next. All right, Wardy is out of here.